and start. Okay, hope you guys can see my screen. So last time we started the project in Visual Studio Code, but most of you guys have here have the question whether we can develop the application in Android Studio. Yes, you can. So I just opened the file, the project in Android Studio, but it's asking for Dart files are not supported. Then they're asking for install the Dart plugin. Okay, and we can configure the plugin and also and so forth. But for this part, we can just go for the Dart configuration in here. But what I would like to do is there is a Kotlin plugin. We can go and install. I think if I'm not mistaken, Android Studio, if I go to preferences and I go to plugins in my section, and there are a lot of plugins that is available at workspace. So I'm going to search Flutter. Okay. And yes, as you guys can remember, we have installed some extension in VS Code. So we give VS Code some extension support or some capabilities to work with Flutter. And I think there are a lot of there is a lot of supports in here. And yeah, let me go and quickly double check on the official one. There can be more. That's why I'm asking the official documentation and plugins or letters. Configuration. Yes. Okay. This is the official Flutter plugin. So we do not have to think that much. Okay. So you can find plugins for each and every platforms that you are working with. Most of the time, IntelliJ or Android Studio will be working perfectly. And yeah, so I'm going to install this Flutter plugin. Okay, third party accept and notice, so and so forth. The Flutter plugin required Dart to be installed. Yes, you can install Dart as well. That is like a dependency on here. So we can install and see what's the difference. I mean, obviously we're going to be developing a Dart application. Nothing. The code and everything is going to be same, only the ID is going to be changed. Make sure that you have installed this the plugin. If that the plugin is not there, it's not going to work as expected. Okay, so as you can see, Flutter setup is done. We can see some code foldings, and we can see the run method and little bit of help is here. So we don't need to worry about setting up all the things. The view is little bit different. Okay, project structure, you can see the project structure. I'm not sure the Android view is going to be big help, but you can see the Android project only. But since this is a shared project or hybrid project, I would rather go with something like the project view. So this is like really simple and really similar to the VS Code setup that we have seen. Okay. And there are like few things that you will see: the Flutter inspector, okay, and the Flutter performance. These are like additional tools that we can use in the application development time. Okay, so we have the device selection. In here you can see Chrome Web, Mac OS Desktop, or we can open an iOS simulator. Okay, I can open an iOS simulator and we can test it on it, or we can select the um, Android simulators that we have recently created, and we can use these things in our application. So yeah, that's pretty much it in terms of using this in Android Studio. It's up to you. You can use whatever the uh, code editor that you feel comfortable and makes more sense. Okay, so I have the iPhone 14 selected, and if I select play button over here or the run button, and it might take a little bit while. I think even last time we did not run on iPhone simulator, but we ran on a desktop. So yeah, it is getting the files. We will look in more and more when we are working with other things in here, especially with dependencies, how we can use those things and so on and so forth. Xcode is building, and remember, even though we are not using Xcode in here, Xcode or Xcode command line tools are necessary at this point. So the project is going to be built using the Xcode command line tools. So we need the Xcode command line tools to be installed. Otherwise, this won't work. Building is done. And there you go. So we have the same application in iOS. We tried out all the platforms that is currently supported. We have tried web, we have tried Android, we have tried iOS, and we have tried native as well. So you guys can work on this application in different modes. Hot reload, apply may change instantly. Okay, thank you for the information. So yeah, we have the Android, we have the iOS application, the same code base that we have shared. So we can use these things, use these things in our application. So reloading, since they have nothing changed, it's not gonna be that things. So there is a medium headline that we should use. Okay, that's the same thing. So we have I think something went wrong. Anyhow, so so yeah, we can take the developer tools and profile our CPU usage. I mean, when we are clicking on a button, how should the CPU is going on, how memory is allocating, those kind of things. We can use these Flutter dev tools. And there is one another good feature is that the layout in Explorer. That means we can see what are the widgets that we have laid out. So if you guys can remember, at the root we have the my app stateless widget. Then there is the material app. There you go. And the material app has a home called my home page, and you can see how it is laid out in here. What are the details on the widget itself? Right now it is having these dimensions, and if you guys can see, we have used something called scaffold, and in scaffold we have used the center tag for the body, and we have two columns. Yeah, in here we have two columns. We have the app bar, and we have the floating action button. So this is like a nice overview of the application that we are developing right now. So it's very easy that we can focus on one thing at a time and see what are the things Right. What are the things it's containing? So this is gonna get very useful when you develop a huge application where you will have a lot of things that is going around, and we need to make more decision on it. So this kind of things is going to be very helpful. Okay, next thing that we're going to do is so we have the Flutter inspector and the Flutter performance. You can see, as I mentioned earlier, we can use the memory of this application. Currently, it is taking 93 megabytes to run this application. And there you will have this open dev tools, which will give more details, but it's in a browser. And if you look at the dev tool, it's kind of the same thing. So Flutter inspector, performance, CPU profiler, memory profiler, debugger. You can put debug points and see things. And if you are doing network calls, you can do these things. And if you are trying to put logs, you can see the logs in here, and you can easily debug the applications at login size. And yeah, there are plenty of things which we'll try to cover these things in advanced course, because this is like an introductory course. But better you guys know that this exists, and these tools can help to improve your application. Maybe sometimes you might say, okay, there are things like there is the app getting slower by time, and there are sometimes the app crashes. You can easily debug those things using these tools. Okay, right now we will not be using these things, but good to know that these things exist. Okay, next thing. Yes. So next things we'll be doing is that we will create another screen, and we will try to navigate to that. Okay, simple navigation. And there are a lot of ways that we can do navigations. Okay, and we can do if you guys know, there are scenarios where we can use bottom navigation, bottom sheets, or page navigation. That sort of things are available. Right now, we will create a very simple application which contains a button which will go to another page. Okay, so in Flutter, we don't have the concepts like fragments or activities like in Android, or in Swift UI we call storyboards, or we can call views. But we have things like we have things called things widgets. Okay, as I mentioned earlier on this course, everything that you will see in Flutter is going to be an widget. All right, let's create another widget right around the button that we are seeing in here. And we will create a button widget. We will use the button widget and try to navigate to it. Okay, so we can use the button widget. Okay. Button. So button is not like a built-in one for Flutter. Let's see if I can remember. Buttons and everything is a little bit different. Yes, we have like several button variants. Okay, so we can use the Android like we can't use directly a button. There are a few variations of the buttons. So we can use the button type called text button. Yes. Okay, so the text button is what we'll be using, and The text button is expecting at least 2 required ones. What are those? What should happen on pressed, okay? Or what should happen, what should be shown in the text, okay? So on pressed, I think I can say, I'm not quite. I can put something like this. Okay, for now, it's not going to do anything. For the child, that means what is the inner content of this text button. I would simply go with text and I will say navigate to next. Okay, and you guys can see that immediately I got a button over here. Now it is clickable. But the thing is, we have not created anything out of this action. Okay, the action is doing something, that is the on press method over here, but it's not, does not do anything at this moment. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to make go to a next page. Okay, we need to create another page. So when we are creating another page, we use something called navigations. Okay, if you guys can remember, in Android we have the navigation layout where we can put the navigation and actions, and there are things that we can do other than hard-coded XML navigations, but we can navigate programmatically. Okay, so we have to create another widget. Okay, so we can navigate into, okay, like a second page. We call these things as pages. So what I will do is I will go to the lib, okay, where I have all the source code, and I will create a new can create a package, or I can just create a folder in here, directory. Do I have directory? No, I can just go and create a package. Let's see. Same thing, I hope. And I will name this as pages. Okay, so that's it's easy to me to have separation of all the things. Otherwise, if I put everything in one single main package, it's harder to me to find on a later place. So I will create this Dart file. If you guys can see, it's a Dart file that I need to create a separate Dart file in here. Okay, I will create this Dart file, and I will create this Dart file as bottom navigation page. Okay, so this page will contain a bottom navigation, so that's what I called it, bottom navigation page. But if it contains a functionality, please go ahead and name it something more useful and something make more sense. Okay, since I am gonna do a bottom navigation, I'll just create this bottom navigation page. Okay, so we need to create a widget. Okay, so we can create create another widget which contain in the second page. So I will name this as the bottom navigation. Let me remove this so you can see navigation page. Okay, and we have to remember it's gonna be either a stateful widget or stateless widget. I'm gonna go with a stateless widget. Okay, so I'll be working with a stateless widget. As soon as I do, it is expecting me to give a build method. If you guys can remember, I should always return the build a widget on the build method. Right now it is saying okay, not implemented, but what I'll do is I will create a bottom navigation bottom navigation bar. Okay, So it's really easy. What I do is I'm gonna just copy paste bottom navigation from what do you call from a scaffold. Okay, but in order to have this, let me put a scaffold in here. Return scaffold. Scaffold. Okay, I'll just return a scaffold and insert after the insertion. And yeah, comes with the improved performance, try cons modifier. Yeah. And now basically it has a very simple scaffold, or we can just simply do with text widget. Right now I'm just curious whether the navigation works or not. Okay, and we have to use something called the navigator in Flutter. We are doing the navigation when we click on the navigate to next. Okay, and add cons modifier for better performance. And when we are doing, we are using something called the navigator. Okay, navigator, and navigator has this method called push. Okay, and it is asking for the context. I mean, context is where we're going to be executing this. And if you guys can remember, we are getting the build context out of this build method. So I'm going to use this context. Okay, then they are asking for a route. Okay, route in the sense where you want to go. Since we are using a material design, we can use the material page router, which is available for us. So I'm going to use the material page route. Okay, and there is the concept of builders. Okay, and we can have the context for this build router. Okay, this is how we're going to build another route, something similar to uh, intents in Android. So we will have its own context. That means the page router context, and where we want to go to the bottom navigation bar page, navigation page. Okay, so this is where we want to go. And yes, so it's better to use a const in here. No need. Okay. Expected to find a semicolon in here. We can put the semicolon in here, right? Perfect. So we have created a route, okay, a route using the builder, and we are getting the inside context for this builder. Using this context, I will use the bottom navigation page. So I will simply say, go to this bottom navigation page. And if I hit save, now if I go to the next one, you guys can see it's an empty scaffold and it works as expected. Okay. So from iOS, I think you guys can go back and forth from just swiping from here. And if I go to navigate to next, it's going to go for the next page. And if I go navigate, if I swipe it from this area, I can go back. Okay, that is one way you can go forward and back. But again, you can use something like a button where you can go back. Okay, so I go to the second page where I have the scaffold, and scaffold can have body, if you guys can remember. Scaffold I accidentally did something. Okay. Um, okay, I have a body. Yes. I will use a center because I don't need everything to be in the area. So center has a widget called child, and then there will I will use something another button type that is called elevated button. Okay, it asking for the same things like what would you like to have in here as on pressed, what should happen. You can code it in here like this. Okay, this is what should happen. And for the child, I can have a text or I can have an icon is also uh, a form uh, that is acceptable. I would use, I'm not sure, back arrow back or something like that. Do I have something? Yes, arrow back is there. So what should happen on pressed? I can code it in here. So um, in here, what I would do is I will use navigator dot pop. Okay, and it is asking for the context, and I'm going to give the context where I'm going to get the pop is done. Okay, that's the issue. Child elevation button on press. Stateless widget. Do I need an app bar or something like that? I don't think, but let me put an app bar. Okay, I need a constructor, it seems. Const button navigation page. Okay. And I would need to call the super key. Super. Okay, I have create the super class. It's not giving me the option of going to the second scaffold. I think this should be in a stateful widget. I'm not sure if that's the same reason. I think we could not have these in the last one, as I can remember. Yes, I think that's the reason. Otherwise, there is nothing stopping me from putting in there. Okay, I will create a stateful widget out of this. Rather than creating the stateless widget, I would use stateful widget. Okay, but in stateful widget, I cannot use. I'll just copy this section for now. I will make the override method. I need a create state method. So I will create a class bottom navigation page state extends state. Okay, the state is for bottom navigation page. Okay, the bottom navigation page is asking to write the build method. Okay, I have done that as well. I would need to return this. That is done by uh, create state, and I would return underscore bottom page state right around here, and still it's getting errors. Why is that? Context is right. Get rid of the body. Let me put a text simply and check whether I need to have a child and I would have to have a text. Okay, seems to be working. All right, now I need the child to have a raised button, so elevated button. Okay, on press, let me get a simple child as text. Go back. Okay, on pressed, what should I do is I should call the navigator and call pop method. Navigator pop, this is the error case. Can't I use a child in here? Let me use a simple button, like a text button is elevated button is the case. Text button on pressed. I have a child for this. Still getting errors. Why is that? Invalid constraint value. Text, it works. Okay. I'm not sure why it is not allowing. Let's try a column. Okay, column has children. The children is the text. Constructor bean is called remove transform the constructor indication. It's basically giving me nothing. Let me check. It is allowing me to find. Okay, I am in the build method. Return scaffold. Okay. Or rather than using a scaffold, I would just return a center. And center should have a child. And I would use a text. Say, nice. Okay, nice on the bottom. I would use a text button to check why it is not working. Child, I would say I would have a text contain something, but the text is on press. Okay, it's okay to use in here. And yes, on press, I would need to go navigate, pop with this current context. Yes, it goes back. If I click next, it's go. Since this is not a material page, this is giving not giving the optimal UI that we are expecting. Let me try once more time rather than returning a scaffold. Okay, I will return a scaffold. Okay, that works fine. For the body, let me put this in a okay, I have this center. There you go. Not sure why it was giving errors earlier on. Formatted it, and there you go. So I would say not go back in here. Go back. So navigate to next, and I can click go back. Rather than using a text button, I can use elevated button. Same thing. You can see the go back button is in a different style. Yeah, so we can go for the navigations like this, and really simple. We can have this go back method implemented in here. All right. So if I want, I can have an icon in here, but in here we are using a child. But since we are going to be in a row, I need an icon in a row. So I can use child, go back. There you go. And if I want it to have an icon, and I can say icons dot arrow back. So what would happen is it will have a button in here. Since this row is, we haven't put any constraints of it, it is taking the whole row around it. But if you want, you can align the things like main axis alignment, and you can say main axis alignment and center. The children of this row is going to be main aligned. Okay, and go back, and you can change everything that you see in here. The elevated button, obviously it is centered around here, and in the center even we can change. There are few modifiers over here. I can remember correctly, yeah. So elevated button in here is in a centered div. What I can do is wrap around a column. Okay, then if I go here, you can see it is going up. No, not the column that I'm asking. I can wrap it around what do you call it, a container, if I can remember. No, sorry. What is the widget I'm looking for? I can't remember the stream builder now. Was it a row? Yeah, I can put it in a row, but it's not gonna give the optimal things, but I can main axis alignment center. There you go. So I can have these buttons as I like, and I can have a go back button in here. But obviously, you guys should follow whatever the designs that you are given. Okay, and what I expect to do in here right now, it's not these go to back button. I just want to show you the how the navigation works, but there is one little bit of a problem in here, like the navigation that you have seen in Android and Android Studio. It contains a graph where you can visualize where we are going, what sort of place that we are going. But in here, we are not having something like this. It's purely based on code. So you don't have a visual map on where we are going. But fortunately, there is another alternative way where we can put all these routes, okay, all these routes in a one single page, and we can refer it there. Okay, we will be looking at when we get more and more pages around here. But for now, what we can do is we can have this navigator.push method where we can go for the next page. So it's really simple. Where we when we want to go to a next page, we just call the navigator push method and navigator dot pop method to go back in where we left off. So I will go to the second page. Okay, second page. We have something called bottom navigation bar where it will put a bottom navigation on here. So I will just copy paste one of the bottom navigations bars available. So you guys you don't have to see it all. So scaffold is accepting something called bottom navigation bar. I think this is enough. And one thing that this is needed is when we have something like on a bottom navigation bar, we should identify which one we are currently in. So we have to introduce another variable called selected index, that is the current index of the value that we are interested in. And I can make this final, but I'm going to change it, so I'm not going to make it final. And what should happen on each and every time we click on a button, sorry, we click on navigation item, so we should have a method for that. So I will create one for that. So it's basically what it's going to do is set the selected index as the item tab index. So when we are clicking on this, it's going to return an index, okay, which index it is going to click on. And we're going to set the current index as the one that we have recently tapped on. Okay, so we have this business, school, and home bottom navigation. There you guys can see the bottom navigation bar is one of the scaffold accepted widgets. So we can create our own bottom navigation bar, or we can use the one provided by Material Design. So it is expecting items, okay, bottom navigation bar items that we can give. Bottom navigation bar item is containing an icon and a label that we can give in here, you guys can see. And the second bottom navigation bar, we have an icon and we can have a label, and we should keep a track on what is the current index. Okay, for this items, we can give the item names and the current selected item, so it's automatically gonna highlight the selected bottom navigation index. And select item color. What is the color of the selected ones? So this one is using Ember. I can use the green one to match our requirement. Okay, since our theme is in green, I will go with green. So what should happen what should happen on when we tap on it? I will call back this method on tap, and you can see I am passing the index, and what it does is simply calling the set state method, and uh, the pass index is set as the selected index in here. That's it. So it's really basic to have a bottom navigation bar. So I want you guys to do is rather than have a single body in here, you guys can see it is a single body. It is not changing on the bottom navigation that we are changing. So it's not going to be a route, but rather than a show and hide kind of situation. When I click on the home button, it should show a home. So it should show a separate home widget. And if I click business widget, and school widget. So it should change whatever the widget when we click on either of these things. Okay, right now it is static. It's not going to change anything. And it's basically it's a simple application. So you won't see any changes over here. But what I want you guys to do, have separate 3 widgets for each 3 bottom navigation spheres, and change the content as appropriate. Okay. All right. So yeah, we can go back and navigate to next, go back, and you guys can see the changes over here. And unless you guys can see, unless if I hard reload this, the states, it's gonna be the same. You can see it's not changing even though we change text and everything. Sorry. Okay. Anything else up until this, guys? Anything about the navigation? Anything about finding these examples? As I mentioned earlier, only way that you guys can learn these things up is by simply looking at examples, looking at the things that you should work on. All right. So it's not something that I can teach for you guys all the time. It's your responsibility to go and learn the widget catalog. Okay. You should go and see the widget catalog and see there are these kind of widgets, there are these kind of UIs, whatever the things that would make a great application. It's up to you to find out what are the things out there, and learn on top of that. Yes, any questions up until this, guys? Any questions? Oops. What just happened? No. Okay. So better try these things out on your own and work with these things. There are a lot of things that you guys can do. I mean, create your own application. By doing that, it's gonna make life more easy for you guys. And the more you practice, the more you gain experience on this. Okay. And one cool YouTube channel, there is the Flutter official YouTube channel. You guys can see nice and sweet short videos They have approached a video channel or video series called what is called um, widget of the week, or something similar. They introduce small things, small widget to you each and every week, so you guys, you can have a look around it and see, okay, this widget is there. Now I can work with these, and what these are the functionalities of this widget, and that sort of things. It's very short, around like 1 or 2 minutes, but it gives a more idea on what we can achieve. Okay, so please go check those things out. Go check the official documentation. As you can see, building nice looking UI, nice looking application. It's not that hard. Only thing that you need to know is whether you can get the things sorted out, and if you can put them in a way that everybody can understand, like packaging these things in a different page and working with these things in different manners. It would be just fine for now. Okay. All right. So the next thing that I would do is I would work with one of the important aspects is that the networking. Okay, and we will see networking in general and how um, networking is going to affect us as the web developers. Okay, so first thing that I would do, I would create a page, and uh, in that page, I will get some information from internet via a REST API and show it in a list. So that is our end goal. End goal is to go to a page and within that page show all the information that we will get from that REST API and show it in a list. So let's put the grounds or lay the first things that we need to work with. So we need a data source. That means we need to get some data from internet. So I would recommend some mock data that can find on the internet without an issue. So I would go with something like JSON placeholder, which contains a lot of JSON related stuff. I mean, at least we can get some dummy data. If you look at this website, JSON placeholder and post, this is the URL, and you can see that this is a JSON response. I hope you guys know what a JSON response is. It's a representation of information where anyone can understand. REST APIs are pretty common these days. How many of you guys know about REST APIs? Raise your hand, please. Okay, I have seen a REST API, I have worked with a REST API. How many of you have worked with? No one? Okay. Anyone have tried? Okay. One person. Keaton has worked with that. Okay, so just give you guys a brief introduction on REST. REST is one way of representing data. Okay, you guys can see these this website, right? If you look at this website, it is nice and looking good. There is navigation and everything. This is what a web browser is showing to us. Okay, this is what a web browser shows to us. But if you look at the source code, okay, this is what the web browser is gonna get. Okay, this is the source of this page, and I think all of you guys must know HTML. So HTML is the markup language for web. So we get this HTML codes where I describe each and everything that you will see in this page. And these pages just render without an issue in the browser. It looks nice and cool. But say for example, this is a very simple application, but we want to show some data. Okay, some information coming from some data source. So in order to do that, we there are applications where you can render it in the server side and get it back, or we can just use a REST API. REST API considered as a data source for us. Okay, so rather than getting the HTML or pre-rendered or some other form, it's not always HTML. There can be other various forms, but a data source can be exposed as some sort of unified format. So REST is one of the protocols, not yeah, protocol. REST is what do you call it? REST is REST is actually not a protocol. Protocol is the HTTP is the protocol, and it is the set of rules, if I may say, that gives us the results back we expected. So, for instance, REST has these things called commands. Okay, so there is this get command, post command, put command, patch, delete. So each of these commands, what they will do is they will do certain stuff over the internet. So if I say a get request, what will do get request and a path to follow. If I go to post section, it will get all the requests related to post. So the post has a user ID, title, and a body. These are all objects, and since these are more than one, it's an array of objects. Okay, it's containing 100 items. But say for instance, I want to create a new post. Okay, so I have this method called post. Okay, don't get confused with the path itself. So post is a command which we can create a new object, in this scenario a post. Okay, and there is another command called put where we can update a certain element. So in this scenario, I want to update the post with the ID of 1. I can dispatch a put command and I can update. And there is patch command, which also the same thing as put. Okay, the only the difference is patch can update partially, where put will update the whole object. So for instance, patch will contain 1 or 2 fields, where put should contain all the fields that should be updated. Otherwise, other things will get null. But in patch, if we have defined only 2 fields, those 2 fields gonna get updated. Others will remain the older values. But if you do a put request and put only 2, where it contains 3 or more, the other values, they will be automatically null. They will be updated in a different way. So delete is very simple. As you can see, it will delete a single post out of that list. Okay, so we can get a list of posts, we can create a new one, we can update, partially update, and we can delete. So these are the basic REST commands. When we execute these things, it does a certain thing. Okay, if we execute a get request, it will return us certain data. Okay, so we'll be calling this REST endpoint with the get request, and we will get all of these posts, and we will try to display these things within the Flutter application. Okay, so we can do this, we can achieve this in what do you call, in Android and SwiftUI as well, but I'm gonna teach you guys to how we can do easily in this scenario using Flutter. Okay, So this is the endpoint that we'll be using, and we will see how we can create a network call and put it in a list. So first of all, let me create a second another page. Okay, I will create a new dart file. I will name this post list page. Okay, and I can do stateful widget or stateless widget. I can create a stateless widget like that, and I will create a post page widget. Okay, and I do not need a placeholder, and yeah, that's it. Stateless widget. Class only extend other classes. Okay, and done. Okay, I think I need the material import, and so I need another button. So in here, what I'll do is I will create another elevated button. So there are other buttons like outline button. On press, what should happen? And for the child, I will say I will have a text which says go to posts. Okay, and on press, what should happen? I would say navigator. I'll copy this thing and paste it in here. Oops. I would say I would need to go to the post page widget. Actually, it should be post list page widget. There you go. And I would go to that one. Rather than the bottom widget, I would go to post list widget, and I would need to import this from the relative path, which is also easy. Bottom navigation, I would also import this relatively rather than the package. So yeah, there you go. You have go to post method, and you can see this is the placeholder. There's nothing but just show a empty area. Okay, so I would create a list in here, so I can show the list of objects. Right now, I will create a dummy list. So let me go back to the what do you call the Flutter widget library, Flutter list view. Okay, let me get an example of the list view. Okay, pretty much simple. I would just copy paste a list view and go to the post page, and I would return this. Return. Okay. Now you guys can see a list of objects has been entered in here, but it does not look good. So I would certainly put this in a scaffold or something like that. So rather than having the list view in here, I will wrap it with a widget. Sorry, extract it to a widget. Click on it, and oh, I think it's not containing the extract function like I have seen in VS Code. For now, I will create a scaffold. Okay, for the scaffold body, I will give the list. Okay, right now you guys can see that the scaffold is containing uh, the body of the scaffold is gonna be a uh, simple list, but there is a problem in here. Uh, since we do not have an app bar, it is gonna go in the up. So what I can do is two things. I can have an app bar and see whether it's solved the problem. I will have yeah, I can have an app bar in here. App bar, app bar, and app bar should have a title. It's going to be a text, and the text will say post list. There you go. So when we introduce an app bar, what it happens is it's automatically having few things for us. It's giving this back button for us, and it's also wrapping the things in a nicer way that we can see in the center or something like that. Okay, so but say for instance you don't need an app bar at this point, but you don't need to mess around these things. Like if you guys have seen latest phones trying to have these bubble or dot or some sort of notch area, but we don't need this notch area to be covered in application. So there is a special widget, if I'm not mistaken, wrapped around a widget. Okay, I will click on this list view and I will create this wrap with widget, and I will call this safe area. Okay, now you guys can see if I put the list view widget under a saved area widget, what would happen is it's automatically gonna ignore those areas where it has all those titles and everything. It's gonna ignore those things, but it's gonna put these things in here. So it has a padding. I don't like the padding. I will just remove it. And it has few containers. Right now, I'm not interested in those things. Right now, what I'm interested is in this list view that I've seen. So if I introduce back the title bar, and it's going to remain the same. The safe area is already added for the app bar. But if you don't need the app bar, just you need the list, you can wrap it around a safe area widget. If you don't have the safe area, it would not look good on your application. Okay, so we have a list, but in this list you can see the list view is containing children. We have container widgets. Okay, it's basically each of these containers have height of 50, color of this, and children to be centered have a text entry. Okay, this is the same. This is the basic view that we can see in here. Okay, but now let's say I want more um, uh, more controlled version, more user-friendly version of this. I would not use list view like this, but I would use something like a list view builder. Okay, so rather than having the list view right around here, I would delete and I would have something called list view builder. Return list view builder. Okay, list view builder is expecting something called the item builder. Okay, item builder is a place where you build a single item. How do you build a single item? And we will repeat the same process to you. So that's the basic idea behind item builder. So item builder will have two things. the build context. I will call it as context, and the index. Index is the number which this is going to be executed, and the other one is okay, list build. Okay, so now you guys can see it is empty right now, and I can return a text in here for simplicity. I would say text and hi. Okay, I should return this and use this as const. But right now the builder is this is the build method for one single child. But what are the entries? What are the things that I'm going to be building upon? Okay, that is we need to provide. So I will put a few entries in here, and I will put it around in here. Final should be in here before the constructor. Can't define the const. Okay, in here you can't have the const since this is constructed elsewhere. And these are the entries that I'm going to have. It's going to be a list of strings, basically A, B, C, D, but we will look in when we are implementing. It's going to be a little bit different. Okay, you can see the high in here infinitely. So I can say center child const high. Okay, now you can see a list of infinite highs in here. Okay, but what I would need is I need to show only entries amount of values. So in here you can see the list builder is accepting something called item count. Okay, and I would say the item count should be entries dot length. So whatever the length of these entries there are A, B, C containing 3 entries. Based on those number of entries, you can have the item repeated in here. I'm not sure why this look good, bad. Okay, so we have the list view, context builder, and I don't think I need this const because this is a const. And rather than say hi, I can say, okay, we have these entries. The entries are these values containing strings. I can have single quotation in here, and dollar can say entries and index. So what it does is it's gonna take the index, it's gonna take the entries, and based on that entries, that means this list of entries, and I need the index. Okay, index is passed from me in the build item build context, and I can just simply say, okay, from the entries list, get the index, the current index, and put it in the text view. So that's the simplest form of we are instructing in here. It is getting an error. What's the error? Throw an exception. Evaluation valued of null assigned to parameter of string constructor use subtype removing keyword const. Okay, I think I can't have const in here. Okay, good. So now you can see high A, high B, high C is put it in here. We can just simply remove this. It's going to say ABC. So if I put these things as run leaker, and who are the people in here, say on, and we can have a Sanker. There you go. So we have list of people. I mean, I did not put everyone, but the list is there, and this builder is going to create one single entry. And I'm using the center widget, and I'm passing a child of text, and even I can style this if you like, style, and you can say, what is that, text style, right? Text style dot color. I can have colors, color dot red. So colors dot red. Okay, and I can just let me read. Okay, there you go. See much better, and I can say font size, and I can say font size is expecting what kind of things. It's expecting a double. I can say 30, and there you go. So we can have these kind of things from a predefined one. Okay, we have predefined values in here, and those going to be showing in here. Rather than red, I would use green. Okay. Okay, there you go. So you can simply iterate these entries, and you can just simply you can just show these values. So the beauty of is that you can have not only 3, but if you have some things like the shani, and it automatically shows in here. So great. So we have list of posts, but right now the list is containing the values which are hard coded in here. Okay. So we do not need that. We need to get this list of things, from an API, from the from the REST API that we have seen earlier on. So how are we going to do that? We need to get this information in JSON placeholder into here, the list of items that we will find in here. Okay, then we need to display those things. Okay, next thing that we're going to do is out of the box, there are some network communications that allows by that is allowed in the Flutter itself, but most of the time that library is very primitive, and it's not very helpful when we are trying to fetching detail. So what I will do is I will just simply search Flutter REST API example. Then we will go something that we can work with. Okay, so I got the official documentation. Okay, so fetching data from internet. Okay, simple. And first thing is fetching data from internet is necessary in most apps. Yes, Dart provides tools called HTTP package for this, and use the following setup: add HTTP package. Okay, so we need to add the HTTP package into our development environment. Net request and convert responding and fetch data, blah blah blah. First, we need to add the HTTP package. So as I mentioned earlier, the basic Flutter does not containing anything related to HTTP calls or how we're gonna make the calls to outside world. because basically not all the application might need this HTTP calls to happen. There might be scenarios where we just simply need to show something and display anything else. But in here, we will be looking into something called the um, something that we will like to reach out a specific functionality, in this case making a REST call. So we need to add packages separately. Okay, so first thing that we need to do is get the HTTP package under dependencies section. So if you guys can remember, in our application we have the pubspec file. Where is pubspec? Yes. So under pubspec, we have the section called dependencies. Okay, in here is the place where we put the dependencies in our application. So they are asking to get the package. Okay, so what is the latest version we need to find? So we will click on here and go to the page place called pubdev. Okay, pubdev is where you can find Dart packages, third-party packages, or in most of the published packages around here. So in here, if you go there, you will find a lot of information. So if anything, if you don't know where to look, where to get libraries, go to pub.dev and do a search, and it will give a lot of options. And so make sure they are verified by Dart Some are not verified. So if it is not verified, make sure it is usable in anywhere. And make sure when you are selecting some library, as you can see, it should be compatible with Dart. It should be compatible with Flutter. Okay. Most of the time, some libraries are not compatible with Flutter. It's only written in Dart. So any Dart application which is not using Flutter, this is used. But other platforms that also you want to work with, say for example, some libraries are there. They will not work as expected on other platforms. So in here, for luckily, HTTP package is working with Android, iOS, Linux, macOS, web, and Windows. So anything that we are using at most of the time is usable if you use this HTTP package. Okay, so we have this HTTP package, and there are examples in here how we can use this. If you go to installing section, you can use the Dart package manager, or if it is Flutter, you can use Flutter, or you can manually put this in our pub.spec. Sorry, what is the file again? Pubspec YAML file. You can put it in here. So I can just simply copy this line, and under dependencies, and I can put it in here. So once I put it in here, and make sure to run the pub.get command in here, or in VS Code you get the same notification. Unless you run this pub.get, it won't update the files. So better run pub.get, and you can see Flutter pub.get is executed. Running Flutter pub.get, you can manually run this in your browser as well, in your terminal as well. So there are dependencies are there. So HTTP this version is depending on HTTP parser. It is also downloaded. HTTP parser is depending on these versions. These also downloaded, and so on and so forth. So by using this package, you are using a few other packages as well, but it is like covered for you, so you don't have to worry. So this is how we're gonna add a dependency into our Flutter project. Okay, so we have added the HTTP one. And let's see for a example use case. Okay, we can have these URLs and books and response, and we can show it in here. And yeah, I think in here it is also going to be the same thing. Okay, uh, we'll try to go with something very simple rather than going something very what do you call very advanced. Right now we have imported the latest version. This is done. Now we have to import in our package. Okay, and I'll do the same thing. I am in my post list page, and right now it should not give any errors whether it is not available or not. Sometimes what I have seen is it will not work once the pub is updated. Sometimes you have to stop it and run it again to work perfectly, because we are not doing a code level change but dependency level change. So sometimes it would not work as expected, so we need to rebuild the application in order to work with these HTTP clients. So better as a habit, when you add something to your pub.dart, make sure you do a clean build and do the rest of the coding afterwards. Okay, so right now we have the HTTP client, HTTP library package, which will be using to make network requests. And by using simply this is not going to solve anything, but we'll go on the journey. So yeah, and make sure if I am going in Android, uh, there is these things called users permissions. Okay, I think you guys might have seen these things in Android on some applications. So when you when you install the application for the first time, it will ask some permissions. Okay, this application is trying to connect to internet. This application is trying to read your phone contacts. This application is trying to read your messages. There are a lot of permissions that user should allow in order to work. Okay, so in order to prompt these things, or in order to say the Android ecosystem, your application is going to use internet, we need to use this XML configuration saying, okay, this application will use internet, please allow it. Okay, so if you do not have this permission, what will happen is the application will crash, saying, hey, you are doing a network request, but you have not uh, allowed us, or you did not told Android systems that you are doing an internet call or internet request. So you better explicitly say, okay, I am making network calls in my application, please allow it. Okay, give me the permission to make network calls. So we have to add these use permissions in our Android manifest. Okay, let's go and check in Android manifest whether we have that. So if you go to the Android build, app, src, main, Android manifest. Okay, so that's what I mentioned earlier. If you are running an Android application, if you are building a Flutter application, it does not mean you can completely ditch everything from Android or iOS. You should have a very decent amount of um, knowledge in terms of Android as well. Okay, so this is the Android manifest. Okay, as you can see in manifest, you don't have the users permission. So what we have to do is we have to add this users permission internet in our manifest. Okay, so by doing this, so we can make um, the network calls happens within the Flutter application. Okay, if we do not have this permission set in our Android, it won't make the network calls. So same goes for the iOS as well. So iOS have the same restriction. Since I am running on iPhone, okay, by doing this, it won't magically work with iOS as well. So we need to find the corresponding iOS configuration and allow it. Okay, let me go and see whether they have instruction in here for iOS. Seems not. Okay, let's see if the error comes in iOS. Right now, it seems to be, since we are not doing a network request, it is not coming, but let's do the both way around that and see whether it is the use case. But for right now, remember, Android manifest should have this. Let me check iOS internet permission. Yeah, so we have the same thing in here in iOS. So we are going back to the iOS build right around here. And you guys can see that there are a couple of project files laying around here. So I will go to the Xcode project. Wait, where is the info dot? Yep. So in our application, there is this file called info.plist, something similar to the app manifest that Android manifest file that you have seen, but it is also giving some metadata for our application. And in here you will find this info.plist file, okay, which is not an which is something like XML document in here, and it is using something called a dictionary. Okay, and you should find a key, okay, something like we have seen in here, something called NS app transport security. Okay, NS transport app security. But if you can't find it, what you can basically do is define it. Okay, so I will create an entry under the dictionary. Okay, I will have a key and I will have the value for that. So the key is make sure you are not overlapping with any other key. This is the key, NS app transport security, and it is a dictionary, and the dictionary value is this. Dictionary NS allow arbitrary loads, and the key value is true, and end of dictionary. Okay, so you need to have this permission granted on iOS. Unless you do that, you are not allowed to do this you are not allowed to make network calls. So you have this open module in Xcode. I can open this in Xcode and see how it looks like. Okay, if you guys can see Xcode right around now. There you go. So this is the Xcode version of this application. Okay, if I open this in Xcode, this is how it looks like. And in here, there's this section called info. All right. you can see that in info you might find the latest added file, which is ns. We can search it in here actually. I think I did not save that in here. Runner and go to info. There you go. App transport security setting. This is allow RTBD loads and it is set to be true. So we can do it in here, or we can just edit the XML file, the plisting file, and work it done. Get it done. Okay. So remember, you need this information. You need this permission set. Otherwise, what will happen? The app will crash when you are trying to do a network request. Okay, let's move on. Next thing that you need to do is make a network request. Okay, so we can have something like from JSON placeholder, and we get a some sort of request from there. So we have this method, and we will copy and paste it in our code. Let me remove pub spec. Okay, I have this function. Okay, I have this function called future, and it's going to be an HTTP response. Okay, fetch albums, I will call this fetch posts. And if you guys can remember, the URL is for this is posts. You can double check in here. I'll copy this for safekeeping. Yes, it's the same thing. So I can fetch some post, okay, and it's gonna be a future. Why it's gonna be returning a future? Future is because when we do a network call, okay, when we are making a network call, we can't guarantee it will return us the solution like instantly. Okay, there are several factors that that determine, okay, this is not gonna be instant. So several factors are the network might be slow. Okay, network might be slow. So when we make the request, it will take some time to get back the response. The reason behind that, network may be slow, the server might be slow, and your data limit is over. You are running on very small, very limited data. What do you call data cap? So there are a lot of things that can happen that will not give the expected value instantly. So we have to say, okay, in a near future or in a later part of the execution of our application, we will get some data. Okay, we will get some data from there, and it's gonna be a type of HTTP response. Okay, so this is a HTTP request. What we are getting, what we are doing in here. If you say http.get, it's gonna be HTTP request, and where are we gonna be requesting? Where will be requesting requesting from here, and we will get a HTTP response. See, we'll see what holds in a HTTP response. It's not like it's gonna return all these things at once. There are a couple of things it's returned. This payload, what you see in here, it is one thing, but there are several other things as well. So we will have this in here for now. Okay, let's move on. uh, asynchronous operations. We call these as asynchronous operation. Something will happen in the future, and when it is completed, we will get the result. Okay. And the next thing that we need to do is we need to convert. Okay, so what you are seeing in here, this is not a Dart object. Okay, we can create Dart classes and everything, but this is not a Dart object. This is plain old string. If you look at the raw value, this is what I am getting from the internet. Okay, so this is not something that I can match or something that I can work with in Dart. Okay, Dart does not understand string. Dart should understand Dart classes. So we need to convert that into um, a Dart object. Okay, so we can use this annotation and map. We can use this kind of conversation, or there is JSON and JSON serialization class which help us to do the serialization and deserialization. Right now what I will do is I will just create these things based on the values that I have that I can see in here. So I'll take one example from here. Let me copy this and close. Okay, so you guys can see in a singular object of a post, there is few fields: user ID, title, and body. Okay, these are the corresponding values that we are getting from this endpoint. Okay, I will create something similar in here. If I go to pages, list page, and sometimes people try to create a new package in here. I will call these models. Okay, not the models that you guys are thinking. Modeling in the sense I'm gonna model this response in Dart. Okay, so I will I will create a new Dart file, and I will do what I do is I will create post. Okay, this is going to be a single post, and it's the class is called post. Okay, make sure when you are modeling, you model for one particular one. This is one single post, so I'm going to model it. So what are the things that we are seeing here? We can see a user ID in here. We can see a user ID. Okay, and I will create final string. Okay, this is a user ID. String user ID. Okay, and yes, and what else I can see? Final, and if you look at this user ID is a number. ID is also a number. Title is a string. So I would change this to integer and integer ID. Okay, and there is title, final title, which is gonna be in type of string. Title, final string, it's gonna say body, right? If I can remember, yes, body. So there are few variables in here, and what are these things? So whenever we are creating a new post, okay, these things should be there. You guys can see user ID, title, user ID, title, body is somewhat we will see in a post. You can see that, right? These are all mandatory. So these guys are saying, hey, if this is final, either you make a late modifier or create a constructor for the final fields. So I will create a final field constructor. So it makes things easy for me. All right. So it's the same thing that you are seeing in here. Const album required. So it is this one. The same thing that you can work with. Okay, I can make it const, but since it is the same thing, I can work with this. And the next thing is we need a serializer. Okay, serializer, what we are expecting is, so so most of the other frameworks like Python, JavaScript, like not frameworks, languages like Python, JavaScript, Java, even since um, they have basic serialization libraries, but in Flutter we can use this manual way of doing that. So what I'll do is I will create a post from a JSON. Okay, and the JSON will return give me a single JSON object. That means I am trying to do is I am trying to get this string. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, this is a string. Okay, this is a string. I am gonna convert this string to a Dart object. So I am getting a JSON string, and I will make these things like this, and the body is also within JSON. You will find a string called body. Use that to create a new post. Okay, I think this is not working as expected. In a const, I would say required user ID. At least this is how this dot user ID required this dot ID required this dot title required this dot body. Okay, so when we are creating a post, we can create using this constructor, or we can use this from, if you are creating the post dart object from a JSON file, we have to do the mapping like this. We are using a factory post from JSON. So anytime we want to create a JSON out of the string, we have to call this from JSON method. We'll see in the future. For now, just make sure we do the mapping like this. So we are returning a post. When user ID is called, we get the JSON user ID field. So we have something like user ID in here. User ID in here. We can use that. Okay, so we can rename our variables if you like. Okay, if you don't like to call this body, you can call this something else, but the mapping should be done correctly, otherwise it won't work. Okay, it's a good practice that you map the same values that you see in the JSON, so it reduce the mind map of remembering everything. It's going to be one-to-one mapping. Okay, we have created a model for post. Okay, this is how we're going to be look like. Nice. The next thing that we need to do is converting HTTP response to an album. Okay, so you guys can remember that we have done the things in a different way. Okay, and yeah, in this scenario, what we are fetching is a single post. Let's do a single post first, then we will convert it to a list. Okay, so in here, rather than getting all the posts, I will get one post. Okay, so I can show you guys what I mean. So in here, rather than looking at all the posts, first I will take this one, and we will go for the next one as a later part, because converting first a single value is much more easier. All right, so we will be converting these things as we have seen. So rather than returning these values, what I will do is I will say I will await until this is done, and I will say I will assign that to a variable final post one. Let me name that as well, and I will say await. await, right? I'll rename as response, and I will if I am using await in here, that means as you guys can see that I am awaiting until this request is done. Okay, I am waiting this thing is done. But if I am using await, we should say, okay, I am blocking some sort of I'm blocking the execution. So if you are using await to block the request, you should say, okay, I have to use this async modifier in the method call. Otherwise, what will happen? It does not allow us to await within the method. So this indicates okay, this method is having awaits within the method execution, and I should handle these things as asynchronously. So anyone who is calling this, they know that fetch post is asynchronous call, and they should await there as well. We will see the use case of async and await on upcoming ones. But for now, remember, if we are awaiting on some result, we should mark this as async as well. So we got the response. All right. So there can be few things that happens with the response as well. So response have not only the body. Okay, you guys can clearly see this is the response. Okay, but if you look at the inspect element from your browser and go to the network state, and if you refresh this, I think all, yeah, this one. So there are a few other things coming on this network request, like what is the request method, what is the status code, what is the remote address, what are the response headers, what are the request headers. There are a lot of other details that is coming other than the payload. Okay, so we have the response is this. Okay, this is the response we got. But apart from the response, we have several other things like the status code, header response, header request. There are other metadata incorporated with this response. So we can have those things as well. So what we are doing is we are trying to handle an error. So this error, the response that we got has something called a status code. So the status code indicate whether it was successful, whether it got an error, or whether something happens. So in here, so since this is a browser, the status code is 304. 304 means it is not modified. But if you remove the cache, if I do this by removing the cache and hard reload, okay, it's taking time because I'm removing the cache and everything. Now you can get the status code of 200. Okay, since I am in the browser, it gives me 304. That is, the browser is caching the request. But in a real application, sorry, the status code will be 200. 200 indicate success. Okay, there are ranges. If something is 200 or 200-ish up to 300, it says, okay, the way it is successful request. If it is from 300 to 400, that is redirects. And for 400 to 500, we say client errors. For 500 to upwards, we call those server errors. Okay, so we have range of status codes. So if you are interested in, please check on the status code for REST. And based on those things, we can have detail about what we are seeing and what we are dealing with. Okay, we have the status code of 200, and we can do the same thing in here. So we can say if response status code equal 200, which indicate a success. Okay, which indicate a successful call. So if it is a success call, we will do something else. If it did not uh, show the expected value, we will be throwing an error saying, okay, something went wrong or failed to load data. Okay, we can say throw exception. The exception is you can say a message fail to load post. Okay, we can even say post 1 or something like that, since this is a specific call, but we can just show a generic message. So the response code status is 200, and what we need to do now, when we are getting a post, we are not returning the HTTP response, but we will be returning a post. Okay, the post is the class that we have modeled out in here. Right now, when we are creating a request, okay, when we are creating a request, now it should return a post. Earlier it was a response, which is this one. Now I'm not going to return a response, but I will return the response containing the body. So what I have to do is I have to return post dot from JSON, and the JSON should be passed into this method. So in the request, so in the response, I have this area called body. Okay, so string argument is not a map dynamic. We have to decode this to JSON. Okay, this is as I mentioned earlier, this body is coming as a string, but our from JSON object, this one is expecting a map of string and dynamic values. That means if you look at the JSON carefully, this is a map. This is the key and this is a value. This is a key, this is a value. Key, value, key, value. So key type is anywhere in a JSON, it's going to be a string. Value can be anything. It can be a number, it can be a string, or it can be another object. Okay, so that's why we are saying you will get a JSON. The type of the key is going to be a string, and the type of the value is going to be dynamic. We can't say it's going to be a string or a number. But if you are really sure everything is going to be a string, you can just put string in here. But it would make much easier if it's changed in the future, and you can change it to dynamic. But if you are really sure it's going to be everything in here, it's going to be string, you can go ahead with the map string and string. But right now, this is the body is returning a JSON, which is this. If you look at this, this is the string that we are getting. It is not passed, so we need to pass it to map key value pairs. So how do we convert it to key value pairs? We are going to pass it to JSON decode. Okay, JSON decode. What it will do is it will convert this response body, the string, into a map of dynamics. Okay, map of dynamics. So we got our post, and we got the string. We converted into a JSON map containing string and dynamic, and from JSON we are converting that to a real post object, which is understood by the Dart. So here at this point we have a string. This point we have a converted map, and at this point we have a completely decoded post object, which is a Dart object. This object is there. So we are converting this string into this post. Okay, that's the process of doing a conversion of the REST API. So now we were able to get that. I think since this is a single post, We won't be able to put in a list view, but we will get into a normal text view. So how are we going to do that? So simple, and we can do the when we are instantiating our application. Okay, we can have this, and we can fetch our application, and we can display the data. Okay, uh, so how we gonna do that? We will do we will do something like this. Within the state, we will have this fetch album future album initiated. In our case, it's gonna be it's stateless widget that we are working with. I think we have to convert to a stateful widget. Let me create a stateful widget for this. Okay, I will create class post view widget extends stateful widget. Okay, when we are creating a post widget, we should override the missing, that is the create state, and I will create a class underscore post view widget state extends state, and the state is for post view widget. Okay, makes sense. And I will create the missing values. I get the build context, and I will remove these codes, this section, over to my post future widgets in here. Okay, and I should return underscore post view state. There you go. And the build context, right now I don't have anything, so I will just throw it in here. But and I should show the post view widget. Okay, right now I am having this scaffold with the list view. For now, I will comment that out. And did I put anything else? Okay, scaffold is entered in here. Minimize this, minimize this. Okay, body. I don't need this body. I would use body of post widget. Okay. All right. So I literally do not need this right now. We have tried it out. So I need to fetch this port. I need to call this. So what we can do is we are using this late variable in here. Okay, that means it will be initiated later on, not in the constructor. Late, it's gonna be a future, and type will be post future post, which will say the late indication. That means, okay, this is not gonna be initiated at the constructor level. Okay, it will be later on after the initialization of after the construction is done. This post future will have a value. Okay, so we have this method init state. That means state is initialized. When we are initializing state, we say future post fetch post. Okay, so now what we are doing is we are getting a future post right in here when the initialization of the state is done. Okay, so the late initializer, if you don't have the late initialization, what will happen is it will not it will give an error. This is not constructed. You need to have this set up a value, but we will say, okay, we will later on initialize this. For now, just ignore it. And but in later when we are initiating the state of our application, we are fetching a future post. Okay, so we are making the network call and we are having the future post, and now we need to show it in here. Okay, we need to show it in here. So displaying the data, future builder is a widget that we will be using. Okay, the future builder is a special widget that can handle asynchronous task, asynchronous builds. So this future builder is a special widget. If you are working with any Flutter application, you will definitely use this future builder in our application. So it would make more sense. So what we'll do is I will copy this future builder and I will return this in the section. Sorry, need to remove this and I say return. Okay, this, and it's not a it's not gonna be something like future builder, and it should have. Okay, there you go. So what will happen, the future builder is accepting what is the type that we are going to go ahead. So it's going to be a post. Okay, so future builder is giving us a post, and what is the future? And the future is this one, the late init future post. And when it is building, what should happen? Okay, so the snapshot is where it knows whether the future has a value or not. Okay, right now with the construction period, when the future is not initialized, it did not get any values like in here. The snapshot have this variable called has data. It's not going to show the data. Okay, if the snapshot has an error, we will show an error. If either of those things are not there, if the snapshot is not initialized, right now we are not getting any data, we are waiting. So it will show a circular progress indicator. Circular progress indicator is just a small indicator showing it is loading. Once it is done, once it is the future get resolved, everything is done, the parsing is done, and future get updated, a post is received, the snapshot will automatically trigger and see whether is there any errors or whether there are any data or whether there are any errors. If it is an error, it will show the error. If there is no error, it will show the data. Okay, snapshot data, and I will use this title. So how do we know it is going to be an error? So if you guys can see the status code 200, this is the success code, and if it did not success, it will show the error code. Okay, so it's gonna basically simply show the data in here. If I run it again, let's see whether we have completed this. It's reloading. Restarted application. Okay, now if we go to post, you can see that okay, these things are in different area. Let me put in a center. Click on it, wrap it in a center. Wrap it in a center. There you go. Make more sense. And I will wrap the center in a padding. With the padding, edge contents of 8. There you go. So if I go back, simulator, go back, and I go to post. Now you can see, I'm not sure whether it is clearly seen, but progress indicator is shown, then the value is shown in here. Okay, so we are doing a network request, we are getting the values. If I go to the post one and check the value, is it the same? Yes, the sun art, whatever it is showing in our in our area as well. So, but if I want to show something else rather than the title, I want to show the body, I can do that. You can see that it is changing very quickly. And if I go back in here, it is showing it correctly. But if I want to simulate an error, I mean, rather than post, I will change the URL. Then it will not be a status of 200. It will not work, and it will show throw an error, and the error should be thrown in here. So if I refresh, go back, get post, you can see exception, fail to load error post one. Okay, so you guys can see that error is also working. And if I go with the correct path, and the snapshot will give the post. If I do not have a post, it has the error, and it will show the error that is containing. Okay, get post. Yes, you can see that. Yeah, that is how you get a single post and show it in here. Okay. Yeah. So now we will move on to getting the list and show it in the list. I mean, obviously it's the same thing. Anyhow, what I'll do is I will give it to you guys to try it out. Okay, I have shown you how we can get one. And next thing is you need to get a list of users. Okay, it's going to be very simple. Flutter list of JSON. We need to create a list in here. It's going to be really simple. There should be another method in here, or we normally create a value of that. Yeah. So we can create another factory method. Factory post. Not in the post itself, but we have to create a post list. Let me create that as well. Since this is in one single one, I can create rather than creating another class, another file. I would create something like this: class post list. Okay, so post list is the same as the post. Okay, but only thing is the factory method post list from JSON, and I'll copy this thing and change it directly. Post list, something like this, and it will return a list of final list of post, and it is gonna be in type let's say list. All right, and we can say const post list, and it is required to have what do you say, required to have this dot list. Okay, something like this. And within the class factory, returning post is not allowed. I need to return a list of posts. Okay, and I can't create a post list unless I provide a a list of values. So I would take the JSON, okay, and I can say so I take the JSON and I would say map. The map value will be key value pair, so I don't need this key value. I would say just data. I can say post, sorry, post array from array, right? Post from JSON. From JSON, when we are calling the JSON, we need data in here. Not the data, then key value, okay. Map. Oh, it's not going to be a key value in this scenario because we are expecting a list of JSONs. Yeah, we can just not have the post. We'll have a map method in here. So we are sending a single post view. I would create another view that would make more sense. I would create last. Okay, post list view widget. Okay, extending state full widget. Okay, I need to create a state for this. I would create the one missing one, and first thing is I need to create underscore post with state, extend states, sorry, state and state for this, and I should return the state. But when I am creating the post view, I need to create the build. Okay, I'll use the build context. And in here, I would probably go with the list view implementation we have done. Okay, go to list view. Right now, we don't have entries in here, entries count or anything like that. For now, let me put a text view. Return text list. Okay. Okay, post list widget. Right now, it should show a text. Let me center it up. Okay, list is shown. Now what I need to do is I need to get all the data. So I'll use the same feature, okay, like this. But in here, what I'll do is I will fetch, I will get futures, but the only difference is I'm not going to get one single post, but I will get a list of posts. Okay, so I'm not returning a single post, but a lot of posts. Okay, so how I'm gonna do that? I'll say JSON JSON encode. I would say request dot body. Okay, in here, JSON encode will give me an object to iterate on. And the thing that I need to do is convert this list from JSON decode response body. Do I have the map function here? Okay, I can say list of post from. Okay, I need to create a JSON decode dot sorry JSON decode. I have the in here I would say JSON decode, JSON array. There is the example. Let's get JSON array like this, final list, JSON decode, JSON array, data list 0. Okay, I need to create a final list. Final list of decoded list. How it is done, right? Check. So I am creating a list of posts. Okay. Oops. JSON dot decode post from future. Okay, there you go. So I have this JSON dot decode method. JSON decode is not working. JSON dot decode. Okay, and I will take the response body and I will take each and every detail, each and every line. That means this decoded body will be array, and I will take one string and I will create a post out of it. Okay, the mapping is done for each and every object in the JSON decoded body. All right, so I got the list of posts. Now I have to do two things. First thing is the late future. I have to put it in the state in here. It's gonna be list of posts now. Future posts. Okay, since it is late, I will initiate these calls in here. I'll call this fetch post and future post. Got it? Now we have a text view rather than a text view. If you guys can remember, since we are handling futures, I need the future builder. Copy the future builder in here. I would return the future builder. Okay, future post is the one I'm excited on. Yes, future post. And the type is going to be a list of post. Okay, remember that. List of post. And it's not gonna give me a text in here. Okay, at this point that is true. We will have a list view. I will use the list builder. Oops. I'll use the list builder in here. And what is the entry? I have the snapshot data, and I have the length. Property length might be unconditional accessible. Okay, use optional, and data's snapshot data entry index. Okay, that's the same thing. Format the code. Okay, this is conditional that can be there or cannot be there. Data. I can't index like this. The method can also invoke in the builder. Null check. Okay. Feature post not have been initialized. I might need to run this once again. Should be posts. Yeah, it's showing instance of post. That mean we are not getting the right data in here. At least it is getting some data, but okay, index, then I have to call the ID or something like that. Let's call the title for now. Now you can see that titles are coming, but the view that I am using is just simple text, and it is centered. So I will return. I would not use center in here. I would just simply go back. I need to return this. Okay, so the values are showing. Let me go with something like ID, so it's easy. Now you guys can see the IDs up until 100 is showing in this list. Okay, same thing, but different way of doing. I'm just using a text here. Okay, just show you guys what it looks like. But in a real application, I don't think it will be something like this. I can let me just do some styling. I will introduce a padding. Okay, padding is there, the number is there. I would go with a row setting in here, and rather than showing the text only, I would show the title as well. Okay, there you can see. Yeah, I can show the title, but it's taking too much space around here. I would use a spacer. Format document, so it's containing a space in between. Yeah, and I think I can have the ellipse. What is that? That is called ellipse function. I can't remember exactly. Let me go with something like use ID. Yeah, so you guys can see that the ID is here, use ID is here. I will change the color to red. There you go. So we have the details. In here we have ID. In here we have use ID. So make your imagination work on the data, and you can show it as you like. Okay, so we have get the data and show it in the rest view. Okay. Okay, so we did couple of things. We got data from internet, we showed it in here. We got, I'm not sure we have images or something like that, but text would do fine. Right now we are having very dull looking UI, but you guys can work on something really nice that would make more appealing UIs. Right now it's just really dull. I can have a column in here, and column has children has row. Under the row I can have separate, if I can divide or divide. It's separate. Can't remember the list view. Flutter separate. Separate builder divide. Okay, we have something called in the list view. We don't need to have it in columns or anything. In the list view itself, we have something called the divider. Separate build. Okay, it's not gonna be the list view builder. It's gonna be separated. Item count. It's giving an error in item count. Let's hard code that to like 100. See, that helps. Yeah, you can see that. I'm not sure whether you guys can see that there's a small separator on each and every one. If I change to title, there you go. So you can see that there's a separator between that, and you guys can see it's little bit of, I don't know, the UI is not with me, so I'm just having a padding on each and everything, and quite good. But the mastering is up to you guys to do, and it is showing an error. It is not rendering the all the aspect of in here, so you guys should handle these things as well. Let me do a quick check. Flutter text ellipse web text in overflow, something like that. What I had to do is overflow. Okay, there is a function modifier called overflow. Yeah, there you go. Text overflow. Text overflow, I will say ellipses. Seems to be ellipses is not working. Clicked. Again, I think I'm doing something wrong. I'm not sure. There might be clipped or something like that I need to do. But yeah, you guys can do the rest of the things. I think I have almost gave everything at least. Now you guys can work on the application and show some data that is fetching from internet. Try to insert a video, sorry, not a video, picture or something like that, so it is look more pleasing. All right. Any questions up until this, guys? No. I know it will be a little bit lot to take in, but anyhow, I think you guys can manage. you can manage, right? All of you guys. Oops. Flexible. There you go. I had to wrap it in a flexible. Then it's looks good. I mean, not the award goes to the best UI, but something that you can work with. Font size, I would go like 10. 10 is too much. 20. There you go. All right. Anything else, guys, that I need to discuss? So the source code, for your clarity, I will just I will scroll this through. So you guys, when you're looking at the video, and you guys can pause and get the code. Okay, I'm not going to give the source code because by doing that, you guys are not working, or the typing and everything. If you guys do it yourself, it would make more sense. All right. If there is nothing else, let me stop sharing and stop recording.